Hey guys, how's it going? So for this video, I want to take a look at the potential role of the DEA in the plot of the upcoming Breaking Bad movie, which will apparently encompass the open-ended story of what happened to Jesse Pinkman following the conclusion of the series finale of Breaking Bad. Okay, so as I have discussed in depth and at length in many of my previous videos, Vince Gilligan himself has raised the point that following Jesse Pinkman's escape at the end of the series finale of Breaking Bad, he would still seemingly, nonetheless, be on the hook for his role in the murder of the DEA agents, Hank Schrader and Steve Gomez. So in light of this, I thought it would be interesting to discuss and analyze the hypothetical role of the DEA pursuing Jesse Pinkman in the plot of this upcoming movie by taking a look at the storyline of the DEA from the plot of Breaking Bad, which took place following the deaths of Hank Schrader and Steve Gomez. Okay, so following the deaths of both of these two federal agents, we would then see Walter White, despite himself not pulling the trigger, essentially admit to the deaths of both of these characters in a recorded phone message with Skyler at the end of the episode entitled Ozymandias.
You mark my words, Skyler. Toe the line, or you will wind up just like Hank.
Walt, tell me what happened. Where is Hank? Please. We need to know.
You're never gonna see Hank again. He crossed me.
Oh.
You think about that. Family or no. You let that sink in.
Then, following this, in the penultimate episode of Breaking Bad, entitled Granite State, we would then see Walter White's lawyer, none other than Saul Goodman, describe to Walt the legal fallout of his meth operation now being uncovered by the DEA.
The phone call was a smart move. Kudos to you. Odds are it was recorded. It's going to play great for a jury. It might even buy her a mistrial in a year and a half. Until then, if they don't have you, they're going after her.
There's no point. She knows nothing.
Well, too bad for her, then. She's got nothing to trade. I hate to be a downer here, but there are 2 DEA agents missing, presumed dead. You think the feds are going to just let that go because you hit the ejector seat?
So what we can hear Saul Goodman state loud and clear in this scene is that there is absolutely no way that the DEA would ever just let the deaths of 2 of their own agents go without serious legal ramifications being handed down to those who were responsible. That being said, what is extremely interesting about this plot in hindsight is that Walter White's co-conspirator, Jesse Pinkman, who essentially committed just as many crimes as Walter White over the course of Breaking Bad, was never brought up in any of these scenes dealing with the DEA's prosecution, despite his extremely close connection to Walter White. However, even in spite of all of this, as we would then see following the time jump that occurred later in the same episode, Jesse Pinkman was nonetheless apparently a known entity who was being pursued by the DEA, as we can see if we look very closely at a newspaper clipping of what appears to be of an out-of-focus picture of Jesse Pinkman with the headline that states, "Local man sought in White case." Furthermore, also continuing along these same lines regarding the plot of the DEA's prosecution, we would then see Walter White, during the series finale of Breaking Bad, entitled Felina, give Skyler the GPS coordinates to the burial site of Hank Schrader and Steve Gomez, to which Walt stated to her she should trade for a deal with the prosecution. That being said, this plot of Skyler trading the locations of the bodies of Hank Schrader and Steve Gomez for a deal with the prosecution ultimately being left completely open-ended and ambiguous following the series finale of Breaking Bad notwithstanding, in my opinion, upon the DEA's discovery of this burial site, they would then certainly notice that there were only 2 bodies in this unmarked grave. And due to the fact that Marie Schrader would undoubtedly also be cooperating with the DEA throughout this entire process, one would think that Marie would have told the DEA that Hank and Steve Gomez were last seen alive with Jesse Pinkman, who, as we can recall from the plot of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled Tahajali, was essentially being held in de facto custody by these 2 characters prior to their own deaths.
Surprised you didn't strangle him. So now what? Book him? Surely AUSA will have plenty to say about how to play him against Walt.
Knowing what we know about how Walt deals with rats behind bars.
Yeah, Punk has to be safer with the marshals watching his back than out here where it's open season.
So this likely means that once the dust settles, following all of the carnage that took place at the end of the series finale of Breaking Bad, and the DEA recovers the bodies of Hank Schrader and Steve Gomez and then does a thorough investigation into what happened at Jack Walker's compound, the missing link in this equation would then ultimately be the whereabouts of Jesse Pinkman, who, as we can remember from the newspaper clipping, was being sought by the authorities, and whose fingerprints, as Vince Gilligan himself has stated, would surely be found all over Jack Walker's meth lab. Furthermore, it also appears that as part of this thorough investigation, Jesse Pinkman's DNA would also surely be found directly on Todd Alquist's dead body, who should be noted was strangulated to death by Jesse Pinkman, which would thus surely cause a ton of suspicion to the authorities, following them discovering that one of the bodies in this massacre was not killed as the result of gunfire when attempting to discover the full story of what happened at Jack Walker's compound. Moreover, to go even a step further, I think that we can also assume that following the authorities arriving at Jack Walker's compound at the end of the series finale of Breaking Bad, to the discovery of Walter White dead on the floor of this meth lab, they would also surely notice the burnt rubber tire tracks as well as the front gate of the compound that had been ripped open by a speeding car, thus implying to them that someone had recently just fled the scene following the murderous rampage they will soon uncover in Jack Walker's clubhouse, which would seemingly give them enormous cause to discover the identity of this person who had just fled this compound. That being said, it should also be noted that the confessional tape that Jesse Pinkman made for Hank Schrader and Steve Gomez, where he essentially admitted to all of his crimes, which came as a result of his direct connection to Walter White, had been stolen from Hank Schrader's house by Jack Walker's men in the episode entitled Granite State, and was then last seen in the plot of Breaking Bad at this compound. That being said, however, while it should also be noted, as we can remember from the plot of Breaking Bad during the episode entitled Rabid Dog, that there was no actual evidence which could be taken from this tape.
You believe him?
Yeah, I do, unfortunately. I hate to admit it, but I think the kid is right. There is no physical evidence, not that I heard.
Yeah, well, no weapons, no bodies, no working lab. Just the word of one nut job meth head against Mr. Rogers has a lung tumor.
All of that notwithstanding, in my opinion, I think if this tape is in the end ultimately found at Jack Walker's compound by the authorities, this would then nonetheless provide the DEA with even further incentive to find and question Jesse Pinkman for his direct connection to Walter White. And so, with all of this background information regarding Jesse Pinkman and the DEA from the plot of Breaking Bad being taken into consideration, I think that it's fair to say that in spite of Walter White, the leader of this infamous illegal drug operation that has totally consumed the entire city of Albuquerque, being found dead at the end of the series finale of Breaking Bad, the DEA would still nonetheless likely want to bring someone to justice in this case. And so, as a result of this, in addition to all of the background information about this case from the plot of Breaking Bad that I have discussed over the course of this video, in my opinion, it seems extremely likely that Jesse Pinkman would certainly be the ideal candidate to potentially prosecute in this case for his direct role in this entire operation. Of course, however, even in spite of all this, the plot of this upcoming Breaking Bad movie will in the end ultimately be determined by Vince Gilligan, and at the end of the day, I really do not foresee him having this film encompassing Jesse Pinkman getting arrested and then serving the sentence of life in prison for his crimes. However, even with all of that being said, in my opinion, even if Jesse Pinkman is not arrested in this film and instead manages to escape Albuquerque and start a new life, despite all of his challenges in doing so that I have discussed in depth and at length in many of my previous videos, I still by no means think that following all of this, he would then be a quote-unquote free man, due to the fact that following this escape, he would now seemingly be resigned to a fate in the same vein as Saul Goodman, who fans of Better Call Saul can surely attest, lives with a constant fear of being discovered by the authorities for his direct connection to Walter White, despite his ability to assume a new identity and move to Omaha, as we can see from all of the black and white flash forwards of Saul Goodman that have been displayed to us over the course of the plot of Better Call Saul. And so, when all is said and done, it really seems that regardless of whatever happens to Jesse Pinkman in the plot of this upcoming movie, in my opinion, it certainly appears that if he is not killed in the plot of this film, the rest of his life will seemingly then be consumed with the perpetual fear of being captured by the DEA, who, based on all the context and evidence that I have discussed from the plot of Breaking Bad, as well as from the plot of Better Call Saul, have no reason or incentive to not continue to actively pursue him, or reason to think that he is already dead, and then, once he is captured, potentially prosecute him as a direct result of his connection to the death of their own 2 federal agents, and as one of the last men left standing who was directly involved in the case surrounding the notorious Albuquerque drug kingpin, Walter White. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video and also want to see additional videos where I discuss and analyze the potential plots and other various aspects surrounding the backstory of the upcoming Breaking Bad movie, then I definitely recommend that you check out some of the other videos about the Breaking Bad movie on my channel, and you should also make sure that you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any new videos prior to the release of this highly anticipated upcoming film. As always, my name is Anton Jackson. Thanks again for watching.